Hey, what's up, good life? Thanks for joining me for today's 128 moment. We're in the middle of a series entitled The Gospel, His Passion, Our Purpose. And we're walking through the last part, the third part of the Gospel of John. We spent several months in that book, but we're looking at the events and the interactions of Passion Week. And we're exploring what it means to live a life that looks like the good news of the gospel. And these past two Sundays, we've looked at those last minute lessons that Jesus was teaching his disciples on the night before he died on the cross. And as we read through those lessons, we looked at our greatest obstacle to living out that purpose, and we looked at our greatest hope for living out that purpose. 2 weeks ago, we looked at the obstacle of our pride and the ability of our pride to short circuit God's purpose in our lives, our purpose to know Christ and to make Christ known. And last week, we looked at the last minute lesson where Jesus promised that he was leaving, but that he was going to send their greatest hope for living for Christ, that he was going to send his disciples and his followers in the years to come. He was going to send the Holy Spirit to live in them, to guide them into all truth, to empower them to live out their gospel purpose. And it seems clear enough, right? We don't have what it takes, but in the Holy Spirit we have all we need. We got it. But do we? I don't often look to the news media outlets like the New York Times for wisdom, but every now and then they share something worth mentioning, something worth noticing. In 2011, there was a columnist by the name of David Brooks who wrote an article entitled The Modesty Manifesto. And in it, he wrote that we are overconfident as a species. He described our condition as the magnification of the self. And Brooks also claimed that Americans were particularly susceptible to this run-amok self-esteem. He cited several studies, several statistics and observations to support his claims, like when pollsters ask people from around the world to rate themselves on different traits, Americans usually give themselves the most positive self-ratings. And although American students don't perform all that well on global math tests, they're among the world leaders in having self-confidence about their math abilities. And compared to college students from 30 years ago, today's college students are much more likely to agree with a statement such as, "I am easy to like." And 70% of high school students claim that they are above average in leadership skills. Only 2% say they're below average. And the number of high school seniors who believe they were very important in the 1950s was around 12%. In the 1990s, 80%. We live in a culture that claims, "Oh, I'm no better than anybody else." But we live, "No one's better than me." Our overconfidence in ourselves only puts us in greater danger. American men are especially susceptible to the perils of pride. Men drown twice as more often as women, not because they're bad swimmers, but because they have an inflated opinion of their swimming ability. The spiritual danger in our prideful condition is our tendency to forget the Lord and all He's done. There's not a moment of achievement in our lives that doesn't bear the fingerprints of God. And when we hijack the mind He created to think great things of ourselves, while all the while not accomplishing those things and not realizing we do them with borrowed goods. And the lessons that Jesus shared with His disciples on the night before He died, we see this intersection of our divine purpose and our desperate need. We're called to share the good news of Jesus across the street and around the world. We're called to live for and to look like Christ in our words and our deeds and our attitudes. And the reality is, we don't have what it takes. But in the Holy Spirit, we have all we need. But for us to live in that reality, we need to embrace a Modesty Manifesto, something to remind us every day in every way that we desperately need Jesus. I think we can find it in a verse we studied a few weeks ago, but also a verse where we'll begin this coming Sunday. In John 15:5, Jesus said, "I am the vine, you are the branches. Whoever abides in me and I in him, he it is who bears much fruit. But apart from me, you can do nothing." Do you believe that, good life? Do you believe that you don't have what it takes to live for Jesus on your own? Do you believe that in sending the Holy Spirit that Jesus has given you everything you need? Do you believe that apart from Him, you can do nothing? Then may all of us enter into this week making less of ourselves so that we can make so much more of Jesus, so that we can love enough to share the good news as we share our lives as well. Hope that encourages you guys today, and hopefully be able to join us this Sunday as we continue our gospel series, walking through those teachings of Jesus as he's empowering his followers to go out and live for him and to share the good news and to impact the world. We'll be at the church at 9:30 and 11 in person and 11 o'clock online. And until then, good life. Let's be a people who will go and love enough.